World investors. Today we have Mr. Gary Teves, the Secretary of Department of Finance of Philippines. Welcome to the show, Mr. Teves.
Thank you very much, Akio, for inviting me here.
Thank you very much for coming.
We're very happy to share with you some of our thoughts about Asia, the Philippines, and the world economy.
Okay, let's start with the Philippines. The latest data that I have, Mr. Teves, is the first quarter of 2010, the Philippine GDP, which was year on year, based on the calculation of the previous, first quarter of 2009. This year's first quarter GDP was up 7.3%. 7.3%. It's a big number. It was more than anybody else expected.
Correct.
Now, do you have any comment on the 7.3?
Well, yes. One is it's a pleasant surprise to me and to everybody else. Intuitively, we thought that the economy was doing relatively good. In relation to my sector, the fiscal sector, the revenues are improving. And then, of course, the numbers related to exports, investments in the stock market, and a few other indicators point to very favorable development. But the 7.3 was something that we didn't expect at all. So hopefully we can continue performing as well.
Right, that's what I was going to say, Mr. Secretary. Do you think this was 7.3? Is that the shoot-up figure? Is that something that you could, we could expect for the rest of the year 2010 for Philippines economy?
Maybe the word is strive for, but maybe we should analyze what's happening to the world economy. Unfortunately, Europe, at least some parts of Europe, are still facing some difficulties. Greece, Portugal, Spain, and Italy. I would say that we might have to revise our numbers upward, maybe around 4 to 5%.
Okay.
But this is also the consensus forecast nowadays among international institutions and rating agencies, that perhaps the Philippines can grow at 4% at the low end of the target, and maybe 5%.
Right.
But we will officially announce it. First, we will meet among ourselves, the economic managers and the members of our Development, Budget, and Coordination Committee. But we also have a new economic team and a new administration that's coming in. So what we will do is we will try to recommend the new numbers to them, and I think it would be up to them to either make adjustments or determine their own numbers.
President-elect Aquino will be coming in as of July 1st.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct.
And you said they probably revised the 2010 GDP for Philippines probably 4 to 5%, which is an improvement from a current estimate for I think it was 3.6, 4.6.
Yes,
range.
our range is 2.6 to 3.6.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, right.
So
it's a big
4 to 5%
jump.
would be a good number, and it's probably something that is attainable. But we have to always watch out for world developments.
Right.
By the way, we're also fortunate that the contributions from our overseas Filipino workers have been able to sustain us.
Right.
So consumption levels are up as well.
So, in a sense, that for Philippines economy, it is very important how the Philippine domestic economy is doing. But at the same time, all the workers in outside of the Philippines, how the world economy really affect the Philippines economy as far as consumption.
That's right. Last year, when everybody was having difficulty, we were fortunate not to have a contraction. We still have a positive growth, largely because our domestic demand was the one instrumental in allowing us to grow. But we were benefited by the contributions of our overseas Filipinos.
Right.
This year, we're seeing contributions from both the external sector and the domestic economy. So these factors taken together have contributed to a very favorable first quarter.
Right. Okay. So with your expectation for economic growth in 2010 is upgraded. Now, with the Philippine peso, or your central government, the interest rate is 4%. It's been 4% since I think July 2009. Your central government is basically saying they'll be meeting soon, and they're talking about something that you talked earlier. They have to watch out for the situation in Greece.
Yes.
They have to watch out their tension in the Korean Peninsula. Do you think that a 4% interest rate will be raised sometime soon?
It's hard to say, but the Monetary Board has historically been very, very prudent in their judgment. No? So they'll be watching out for external developments and also how inflation factors are affecting the economy. So I cannot at this point determine how the Monetary Board will decide on this. We are not a member of the Monetary Board.
Right.
And the Monetary Board, the central bank is a constitutional body. But we work closely with them. And they also try to provide some signals where the rates are going. So at this point, it's better to just say that they'll be assessing the situation very carefully.
Okay, Mr. Secretary. Also, I'd like to ask you something about the government, new government that's coming in July, and the debt level that Philippines has. As a current secretary, you have a certain logic or a certain advice to coming in government, saying like the tax rate had to be. I think it's extended value-added tax is 12% at this point. And
Yes, it's 12%. Let me explain why we provided that kind of suggestion. Unfortunately, the new administration and the president-elect will be coming in at a disadvantage. And the reason for this is that unlike us, who were benefited by the value-added tax, wherein we were able to have an additional 75 to 80 billion a year when I joined as Secretary of Finance. That amount has been gradually reduced or eroded, largely because of external developments and the decision of this Congress to approve a number of tax relief and eroding measures. So the new president-elect will be faced with a situation where the effects of the global financial crisis are still there, but gradually improving. And then the requirements of the government are increasing because of increased population growth rate. And at the same time, we would like to grow faster because we are growing at the rate of 2% a year in terms of population, 1.8 million people, so that we can raise more revenues to be able to go back to the path of fiscal consolidation or a balanced budget to avoid the pitfalls of some of the countries in Europe, and also gradually reduce our debt as a percent of the economy or GDP. So all we're saying is that perhaps it might be helpful for the new government to have a plan B and not rely exclusively on collection efficiency, improvement in tax administration, and curbing smuggling, but maybe combine it with some measures that will help raise revenues to reach the objectives that I tried to convey earlier. That's all, but it really depends on the new president how he's going to handle this.
Well, Mr. Secretary, you're basically saying that President-elect Aquino is basically saying that they will collect efficiently, so that there will be enough tax revenue, and that's where he's going to stand. And you're saying that may not be enough.
I'm saying that that's a laudable objective, a very important one. What I'm also saying is that he should have some flexibility. He should have some latitude just in case what he wants may not be realized right away. Otherwise, the only option available if revenues are not forthcoming or not enough will be to borrow. And if we borrow, then we face the same situation that the debt to GDP ratio will continue to go up. The deficit to GDP ratio will continue to go up as well. As far as like a debt and a GDP ratio that you mentioned about, 2009 it was like 3.6%. For 2009, it increased to 3.9%. For this year, we hope to bring it to 3.6%.
Right.
And for 2011, we hope to bring it to 3.3%. But this is premised on new measures being approved by Congress.
Okay.
So what the president is probably suggesting is that instead of these new tax measures, he will rely on collection efficiency, tax administration, and so on.
Okay. There is the years that you have spent as a secretary. There's a lot of like Lehman Brothers.
Oh, yes.
There was a good times and a bad times. How do you reflect your service?
Well, the way I describe it is that in general, my life as a Secretary of Finance has been a stressful period in my life. But 2009 was really very, very stressful. The world really suffered a lot, including the Philippines. And in fact, it was the first time in the in our stint that we had to revise our target a few times, in fact 4 times. So we were doing all right from 2005 to 2008. We always hit our target and overperform. I believe we almost balanced our budget in 2007. But unfortunately, 2009 came into the picture. But now we're changing direction. Situation is improving, and hopefully this will continue.
Yeah, making certainly made a curve from a damage that might have been from 2009 with the first quarter 7.3%.
Yes,
which is a tremendous
right.
number, and new government will coming in July. And do you think what would you see as a you said your expectation for 2010 for the Philippine economy?
Yes, any new government, including the government of Japan, is normally benefited with what we call the honeymoon period. There's a lot of support, and in the case of the president-elect, 42% of our voters voted for him.
Yeah, very popular.
So it's during the honeymoon period where many governments normally try to ask the people if they can handle very important, maybe very painful reforms. So I would imagine if this is an opportunity for the new president to seize that opportunity. So that's the reason why I said that perhaps the president can consider some measures that will help him.
Yeah,
and
that
his
might
new
be the
government.
time.
Yeah.
Maybe he will be able to say Plan B instead of any other
that's
time.
right,
That may be
that's
hard.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, he should say that if collection efficiency alone will not work, then he could exercise Plan B. And it doesn't have to be the measures that we suggested. He and his economic team can come up with some other measures.
Okay. What is your plan after new government comes in?
I'll go back to the private sector. I'll try to revive our management and political consultancy firm. I'll try to earn a living, but maybe I'll spend about a month trying to rest and play with my grandchildren.
Okay, try to go back to my last maybe just a last question. Do you have any comments about the Japanese economy or Japanese politics at this point?
I'm glad that the Japanese economy is improving, and just like the world economy, I hope it will continue to improve. And as far as Philippine-Japan trade and relationships are concerned, we hope to continue. We've been benefited by this kind of relationship. Japan still has a very large and important role, and I think Japan can do some fine-tuning in its economy, and I think we'll be able to grow faster than what we've seen in the past.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming into the show, Mr. Teresu. It was very nice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
for this discussion.